Hey, morning everyone. Welcome back to Redneck Coachworks. Still working on the Fargo here. I've been fighting with wiring on headlights and taillights turn signals for the last couple of days, trying to figure out what's going on. As I had mentioned before, we switched everything on it to LEDs as far as turn signals, taillights, marker lights, and headlights. And what was happening, all the turn signals and everything worked perfectly with the key on, the four ways. As soon as you turn the headlights on, we'd lose the flash. The lights would stay on, but there'd be no flash. And I changed to LED flashers. I reversed the wiring in the fuse block where the flashers go in, and nothing would change anything, just continued the same way. So I started experimenting, and over the last couple of days I switched everything back to incandescent bulbs in the turn signals, taillights, and marker lights. I kept the LED headlights, and now everything's working fine. So I've done a bunch of research on Google and YouTube, and there's all kinds of theories out there what's going on. I guess there's some sort of a diode box you can buy that'll fix the problem, but we're going in for a safety in just over a week, and we're just going to leave it the way it is with everything working. So what I'm working on now is the AC. It's only minus 16 Celsius outside right now, so we figure we better get some cooling happening because we don't want to get too warm here. Excuse me. So what I've got set up, I've got my, let me move that light. Let's see if we can get it to shine in the right place. So because this is an all new system, except for the compressor, what I've done is I added 1.5 ounces of oil just for anything that we might have lost in the old system. Everything has been kept fairly airtight except for when we made hoses and stuff. I have a bottle of nitrogen, and I use my regulator from my TIG welder, and what I've done is I've purged the whole system with nitrogen, and I've charged it to about 100 psi, and then I marked the gauges, and I left it for about 18 hours, and where the gauges are, it is still at the same thing. So that tells me I have no leaks. So the next thing I'm going to do is going to drain the nitrogen onto the system, and I'm going to get my vacuum pump set up, and I'm going to pull a vacuum on this for about half an hour just to clean out any moisture, nitrogen that's left in the system, and then we'll charge it up. So that's what I'm working on now. I've got a few other projects on the go here that I'll fill you in on a little bit later in the video, so stick around. Okay, I'm all set up here. I've got my vacuum pump. This whole AC setup with the vacuum pump and hoses I got off of Amazon, I believe, from Vivo. It was about 250 bucks, I think it was. So before you start pulling a vacuum, you want to make sure your compressor oil is all the way up. In the sight gauge, it's got a min-max. You got to pull the cap to allow the vacuum pump to vent. Hook everything up, and you want to make sure that you've got the high side, the red valve is closed, and the low side, the blue one, is open. And then I'm going to pull, I'm going to turn the compressor on. It'll probably make a bunch of noise. And you can see it's pulling down on the needle. What I'm wanting, I want it to max out on vacuum. And I'm going to let this thing vacuum here for about half an hour. And then I'm going to let it set for another half hour just to make sure there's no leaks anywhere. So we will bring you back after about half an hour here. Okay guys, so we're back. So I put a vacuum on it for about 40 minutes. It pulled it down to 29 to 30 inches of mercury. And I've let it sit now for almost an hour and it's still sitting at 30 inches of mercury. So that means I'm good to go on charging this. And what I'm going to use is these vintage air systems. All you can use in them is R134A, and the only way I can buy it where I live is in these little cans. Otherwise I got to have a special permit and everything. So I'm just going to get started here. I'm going to put in my self-tapping filler and I'm going to get this thing charged up and make it blow some cool air. Okay, so I'm hooked up to the bottle here. I'm just going to pierce the can. I'm wearing gloves because this stuff will freeze you pretty good. I'm going to just bleed a little off here. Just purging the any moisture and air that's in this line. And now I'm just going to tip this upside down and I'm going to open this and I can watch the Freon going in through the sight glass here. I'm going to have to keep shaking it. Well, these systems hold 28 ounces, so that's 2 1/3 cans of Freon. Right now we got nothing on the upper side. Got to make sure that valve stays closed. I'm just going to keep shaking this until this can's empty. Then I'm going to get my second can hooked up here and then I'll fire the truck up, turn the AC on full blast and see what happens. We got pretty low temperature, so it's going to take a little bit. I may even have to warm one of these cans up with some hot water. Getting really cold, so okay, I'm going to keep screwing around with this and then I'll bring you back once I get things running here. Okay guys, I've got 2 cans in now. Now I have to add about 1/3 of a can of the last one here. I've got my valve turned off. I'm going to pierce this can, crack it. Going to bleed a little bit off, get rid of the air. Open this up. It's blowing really nice cold air inside now. And I think we're good. We're going to call it good anyhow. We have our 28 ounces in. We got good pressures. So let me go check our freeze your fingers. So now all I have to do is disconnect everything, put the dust caps back on, and we have air conditioning. Okay guys, so we're pretty much wrapping up the Fargo project here. A week from this coming Monday, it goes for its safety in Lethbridge, Alberta, and that'll be the final step for it. I'm waiting for a piece of 2.5-inch flexible ducting to come in to tie in the air conditioning outlet on the passenger side, just under the glove box. It should be here today, and that's the last little thing I've got left to do on this before it goes. This next weekend, not this weekend coming up, the following one, Dorsey's coming back out. We're going to do a quick rough alignment on it, and he's got a permit, and we're going to take it out for a highway test just to make sure there's no issues before we go for the safety. So the other thing, I'm going to show you the projects I got working on here. The fellow that I did the pedal car for, that's got the car museum with all the restored vehicles, brought me, now I have 3 projects in the shop he's been waiting for. So one of them's on a time crunch, and it's kind of classing this place up a little bit because I'm moving from Dodges and Fargos into Packards, if you can believe it. So the first one is an MG midget, I believe it is. He's got this grill piece. It's kind of the outline piece that surrounds his grill. It's made out of lead for some reason with kind of a brass wrap. And as soon as he tried to tighten it, it just broke into a bunch of pieces. So what I did was I put it back together and I traced it out on a piece of cardboard. And then I made a pattern, and from that pattern I cut out a piece of 18 gauge, 5/8 of an inch wide all the way around. And then I've run it through the bead roller with my biggest beading die. It was a bit of a bitch. It took probably about 1.5 hours to 2 hours, but I got a really nice profile in it. I don't know if you can see that. So next thing I have to do with this is take it out and fit it to the car, get the curvature up, down, and sideways on it. And then I got to weld whole whack of bolts to the back side of it to bolt it to the grill. So the other project I got is, he's got this, I think it's a 37 Packard 4-door sedan, straight 8, and it's going to the body shop in about 2.5 weeks. And this is the only piece of the floor that's rusted out on it. So I'm going to attempt to copy this and take him a new piece of floor within 2 weeks here. So it's going to be quite complicated. This whole center section here is all recessed, which explains why it's rusted out. It's got X's stamped into it, so I'm going to have to bead roll those in, and then try and get all of these bends and everything in it. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to be making it out of multiple pieces, just to so that I can get it into the bead roller and into my brakes. So stay tuned. That's what I'll be working on next. I'll probably do a video on how I'm doing the floor and the steps it takes to make it. So once again, guys, thanks for tuning in and subscribing to the channel. I can't believe I'm up over 400. I got 405, and it just keeps growing. So thanks again, guys. Catch you next time.